Okay, we discussed about dimension usage, partitions, aggregations, and how to define perspectives and translations in last session. Today we are going to discuss about calculations, KPIs, and actions. Apart from this, we are going to look at the concepts like types of processing options available in SSAs and storage modes available, and the roles, how to define roles. Okay, let's see the calculations first. What is calculations? It's just like a calculated column. If you remember, we defined some new named calculations in data source view. You see here, we can define new named calculations using this option, like test. This is a calculated column, or virtual column you can say. And there won't be any impact in the data source because of this column. This column won't get added to the data source table. And these calculations are the calculations that you want to do. I mean, if your requirement demands that you want to calculate the percentages like MOM, month on month, year on year, some complex calculations, you can define complex calculations in an easy way using this calculation stack. So this option is very useful one. Why? Because you cannot write complex calculations in data source or in data source view using named calculations. And the only difference between the data, the main difference between the named calculation here, which we're defining in the data source view, and the calculations that are defining in the calculations tab, view calculations tab, is these calculations execute at runtime. Whenever your query executes, that time the formula evaluates and it will retrieve it will calculate the data and it will retrieve the result. But these calculations, whenever the cube is processing, at the time of processing itself, it will calculate the data and it will store it in your analysis server. So if you compare these two, the calculated columns which we were creating a data source view are faster when you try to pull the data from that particular column. For example, take this. This is test. Or take some other example for internet sales. Let me see what are all the columns available here. We know sales amount is there. I want to create a new column called sales amount plus. I'm taking the formula sales amount plus 1000. Just a sample calculation, and let me explore the data and see. Where's the sales amount? The sales amount is 3399.99, and if you see at the end, it is 4399. So the value got added, it got calculated. Whenever if I create a measure using this particular column, newly added column, then let me add this first here. Sales amount plus. I've added this column as a measure. If I process the cube, while processing, it will fetch the data. It will calculate that particular calculation, that is sales amount plus 1000, and it will pull the data and it will push into your analysis server. Okay, and these calculations, the calculations that you are defining at this level, for example, I am defining the same calculation what I defined there in the data source view, but I'll give different name. Sales amount calculation, and the expression is I'm using the sales amount plus 1000, and these are our formatting. I'm formatting and non-empty behavior. I can say I'll explain about this non-empty behavior and associated measure group where I want to show this, and display folder, let's say, leave it as blank, not an issue. Now, I have two calculations here. One is calculated at data source view level, and another one is calculated at, you can see here in the calculation tab. The other one is at using calculations tab in Evercube. Let me process this. Taking time. And remember, you can write complex calculations here without any facing any difficulty. This wizard, this particular page, calculation tabs page, is very useful one to write complex calculations like calculating this year's sales minus last year's sales, and you can check the variance, month on month variance, and year on year, quarter on quarter, and you can navigate back to 3 quarters and see the sales. You can write complex calculations in easily. If you want to write the same calculations in data source view or data source level, it involves a complex logic, whereas it is easy here in the calculations tab. Okay, now let's see. This is the sales amount, my sales amount, and I'm taking product wise. Now this is the product wise sales amount. If I drag the sales amount plus, it is showing data immediately. Okay. Why it is too high? I said it is just plus 100, plus 1000, but it is showing some different value. And if you see, this is showing some different value which is adding just 1000 to the sales amount. Why? Because this calculation will execute at the process time. Whenever you process the cube, then it will take each and every row of the fact table, okay, and it will add 1000 to that fact table. And what I'm trying to say here is, it executes, the calculation will be executed at the time of processing. So at that time, all-purpose bike stand will have, for example, all-purpose bike stand has some 10,000 records. Each record will have some value, sales amount, and for each value, 1000 will get added. So that is process time. And this one is at the time of executing the query. When I drag this, then the query will get generated and it will hit the analysis server. That time it will get calculated. So when this query hits the server, this product is already aggregated. So it is adding 1000 to this value. Keep in mind, and based on your requirements, see, if you want to add 1000 for each row, then you have to go and define that one in data source view. And you can do the same here also, but this is the difference. And the main difference what I'm trying to point out here is the calculations, whatever you are creating at the data source view level, will execute at the process time, whereas the calculations which you are defining at using the calculations tab in Cube get executed at query time. Now let's see how to define calculations. You can define simple calculations to complex calculations. You can simply leave this. Let's say this is a simple calculation. I want to add 1000 to the sales amount. Okay. Now, a simple example to show that this is executing at the query time. I'm removing the product. I'm taking product subcategory. If you see bike racks, 39360 plus 1000 got added. And the bike racks, only one is there. Take some other example which has more values another. Okay, for example, this one. If you see bottles and cages, 56798, 57798, 1000 got added. When I split this, we split into 3 and each one 1000 got added. Correct? So it executes at the query time. Whenever the query, I'm seeing the query at English product name wise. So it's adding. And when you add the row level data here, then this value and this value will match. Why? Because this is adding at row level, and when I add row level as dimension like ID or row ID, then these two will be matched. Okay, let's see how to define calculations and what kind of calculations I can define here. For defining complex calculations here, you have to use, you should be good at MDX. This expression tab is the one where you will define the calculation. So for that, you need MDX knowledge. If you're good at MDX, then you can write complex logic here. And simple calculations like I want to see sales amount plus 100 is one calculation, sales amount divided by 1000 or 10,000. You can write simple calculation like this, and you can do few other calculations like if you know MDX. For example, if you want to see only a particular product data, I don't bother what all products are there on my rows. If you see here, there are so many products on the rows column here. But my requirement is show me only AWC logo cap for all the products. How much sum? What is the sum of product sales amount of AWC logo cap? It is 19688.1000 something dot 2. I mean 02. So for all the columns, for all the rows, show the same value, the sales amount of AWC logo cap. You can write that kind of calculations too, but you need MDX knowledge for that. So let me write that calculation. English product name AWC logo cap. This is how we will write in using MDX. Okay, and let me browse and see. Process that. Deployment is enough, I guess, for this. No need to process. If you make any changes to the calculation, then you don't need to process it. So if you see, for all the products that are there, it is showing the same value. Here I am specifying in the calculation expression that I don't bother what's the row item alone. Show me sum of AWC logo cap sales amount. Okay, and okay, this is how you can write calculations, and you can write case statements like if case dim product is equal to 0 and is equal to AWC logo cap, then show 0. I'll show you an example for that. Case 1 this is all MDX, you don't worry about this. Once you become familiar with the MDX, then you can easily write these kind of expressions. Current member is equal to this, then 0. Else sales amount. And yeah, if you see this expression, case 1 dim product dot English product name dot current member, which means whatever the thing that is there on the X row, for this particular row, I mean when this one is evaluating, the current member is adjustable face. When this particular row is evaluating, this particular row calculation is evaluating, then the current member is all purpose byte scan. Like that, I'm checking if the current member is AWC logo cap, then put 0. Else put sales amount as is. Whatever the sales amount is, just display the sales amount. And let me deploy this and see whether it is working fine or not. Oops. One second. It is displaying only 0. Something problem. Let me check that. Let me check the calculation. One English product name dot current member is equal to team product dot then 0 then sales amount. Oops, I have to show the sales amount of current member. Let me check. Okay, and this one should work fine. Click on process, edit process. Interact, please, and select all name. There is a logo tab. File. Run. Let me put by giving not equal to, and let me check. Actually, this calculation is correct, and I don't know why it is thrown. So this is the problem. AWS not equal to. Okay. This ampersand is the problem. It's acting in reverse order than expected. So there is some problem in my calculation. I am not able to figure out where it is. Giving the calculation like when the product name, the current member is AWC logo cap, then place 0, else give the sales amount of the particular. So is equal to shit, comparison operator. Hey, I'm extremely sorry here. Actually, for comparing this is, we have to use is. This is the mistake I've done. I was still in SSIS. So I use equal to compare in SSIS, so I'm still in that. Now I'm in MDX. Okay. Now I'm comparing whether it is AWC logo cap, then place 0, or else show the value of the English product name or the sales amount of the English product name. If you see here, I can see I can see 0 when it is AWC logo cap, and the remaining value is showing as this. So not only this, if you have a date, we have date, right? Let's write some calculations on date. Okay. I'm writing a calculation which will give me last month sales. I mean, whatever the end of the month, I'm trying to write a calculation to show last month. This is the current month, December, but I want to see last month. Last month sales. The calculation will be like this. Is it based on due date or order date or ship date? Let me go with ship date. English month name. So closing period is an MJX function which will give the last month that is there in the hierarchy. Dot lag of 1 will take me 1 month back, comma sales amount. I am trying to get the sales amount of last month for this. And don't worry much about these calculations. I mean writing MJX expressions, you will come to know soon. And I'm taking the format, and this is not mandatory. I can no need to give all these things, and let me process it. I added a new calculation here. Last month sales. To browse this, I can see extra cost that got added here. This is last month sales, and if you take the ship hierarchy, this is the quarter, and this is the last month. You see the last month sales. This is the last month sales, August 1288. When you remove the hierarchy, you can see the same, the last month sales. And this is the last month sales of this particular hierarchy, December 1. And for everything, you can see the last month sales. 518096 here for this hierarchy, and October, November, December 71441476. So like that, if you see, it will show you the last month sales. See, the current month is October. It will show the last month sales. I mean 1 month before to that. And current month is November. Current month is December. It's based on how it is ordered also. Okay. Let me remove all these things. You will get good picture. This is the English month name. You can easily understand here. This is the order of the months that are present. For July, if you see, what is the last month? July last month is August. The before month, last month means. It is 518096. And for this it is July. For this it is September. For this it is December. For this is November. So this is how it calculates. It will show you the last month sales. This is the formula for calculating the last month sales. And you can write formula for getting the last year same month sales by taking by lag of 12 means it will take you back to 12 months. Now it was taking 1 month back. Now I have given lag of 12, which will take me back to 12 months. And if I reconnect it, you can see up to here there is no last 12 months yet. For example, August, 12 months before there is no month at all. July, no 12 months. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But the 13th month, the 12th month is the first one, August. And the 14th month, the 12th month is July. So it will follow from here. This is how you can write calculations, and you can calculate. See, there will be so many business logics which you cannot achieve using. You can achieve, but with complex functionality, complex queries you have to write to achieve the business logic in SSIS level. So they won't implement all the things, all the complex logic, all the business logic at the SSIS level while moving the data from source to destination. And these calculations tab will help in achieving those kind of requirements, which is very difficult to, those kind of calculations which is very difficult to define at SSIS level. And it's very easy, as you can see here. You can write any kind of calculations with if you know MDX. The main criteria for this one is you need to know MDX. And if you see the box now here, the page, first you have to give the name of the calculation, and you have to give the expression and parent hierarchy. What's the parent hierarchy of this, where you want to show this and all, and what the expression that you want to evaluate when you query this, and what the format string. If it is percentage, you can give percentage. What if you give percentage, what it will do is it will do into 100 and it will show percentage symbol at the end. And if you give currency, it will add dollar symbol at the end. And if you give standard, it will use normal standard one. Short date, if it is date format. If long date, if it is date. If you give 0, it won't give any decimal values. If you give .00, it will give 2 decimal values. And if you select this, it will add dollar at the start. And if you select this, it will add percentage at the end. If you select this is the date format, you know. So you have to select the format string, how you want to show, and visible, whether you want to show this calculation or not. Why I'm writing a calculation here to achieve my business requirement, and why I have to hide this. The reason behind this one, I mean providing this option visible to or false is, I'm gonna write a very big calculation which I'm gonna use in my reports. For that, I need some small calculations. Like I have to calculate sales amount divided by sold amount into some other amount, net amount, whole divided by something else. So what I will do is I will take some piece of it and I will create a calculation, and I will use that calculation in the main calculation. So in that case, I don't want to show all other calculations except the main one which I'm going to use in my reports. So I can hide those calculations by using this property. And non-empty behavior, this is very important one. For example, if you're writing any calculation like, let me write a calculation and show you. I'm writing a calculation, I'm defining a calculation, sales amount division. I'm taking sales amount and I want some value which is having nulls. So let me add a measure here. I know order quantity has null values. Let me check that. Let me reconnect it. Let me process. I have to get that measure here to use that. And let me reconnect it. And I can see the order quantity here. Now I'm taking this value divided by order quantity, sales amount divided by order quantity, and I'm taking this format visible to 2. I'm not setting any display folder, and associated measure group is to which measure group I want to add this calculation. If I give it to sales data, it will show in sales data measure group. I've not given any group for last month sales. That's why it is coming separately. I'll show you once I deploy this. I'm not given anything for last month sales. That's why it is not neither in sales data nor in team product. Okay. This is the last month, that's a separate calculation, and now I added a calculation called sales amount J. It is having values for every month. Let me drag for product. It's almost all having order quantity for everything. So I want some value which is having nulls. So let me add a unit price, extended price, discount amount, and find out whether any measure has null values. Order quantity, discount amount, let me try this. I have zeros, very good. And this one is having some values. And unit price, let me try this. So unit price is good. Let me take discount amount, which is having zeros. Let me erase this first. And in this calculation I am taking discount amount. This is the one which is having zeros. So I modify my calculation so that it has to give me sales amount divided by discount amount. Let me browse that. And this is the calculation. If you see 1 dot hash INF is showing, that's an error saying it is divided by 0. You try to divide by 0 and that's why it is shown there. If you see the amount, sales amount, the formula, it is sales amount divided by discount amount. And the discount amount is null for this column, and that's why it is showing zeros in the place of null. And if you divide by 39591 divided by null or 0, it is showing this error. And let me show you how to handle these kind of errors. If you check this option non-empty behavior, for what is the denominator here? The denominator here is discount amount. To check that as discount amount as non-empty behavior, what it will do is it will check whether the denominator value is null or not. First thing that it is going to check while evaluating this expression is whether the denominator is null or not. If it is null, then blindly it will place null. Okay, but this is 0, that's why it is not showing. And this is one way. If you are getting nulls, this is how you have to, by using the non-empty behavior. If you say if this discount amount is null for any row item, then the sales amount div value will become null by default. And now we have to handle this 0 error divided by 0. For that, you can use if condition. If this is equal to 0, then place null, else do this formula. This is the if condition. This is how you have to write if condition in MDX queries. If discount amount is equal to 0, then place null. If this particular expression is evaluated to true, then what you have to do? You have to place null here. If it is not 0, then do the division. These two are very important, handling nulls in the denominators and handling zeros. So this is how you have to handle zeros using the if condition, and if it is nulls, you have to use non-empty behavior property. So if you see, everything is set to null. Okay. And you can see some functions. You can use these functions, string functions, to convert the string to member or str to set. These are all MDX functions you'll come to know. And this is nothing, this is templates, analytical, financial, what kind of, see, if you take filter by attribute, and these are all default functions for analytical, bottom n%, and financial related calculations. These are the templates, they will give a skeleton kind of thing. Okay. Now, if you want to add, if you want to see the code what you have written till now, for every calculation that you are going to add here, it will write the calculated measure in MDX. This is the complete MDX for one calculated measure from here to here. If you see, create member current cube dot measures dot sales amount calculation as case 1. If it is current member, English product name, current member is AWC logo cap, then place 0. Else do the sum, comma. Format string is, I've given some format string, visible property I set it to true, and associated measure group is sales data. So if you see, this sheet is starting with calculate. And this calculate is very important. This is the one while browsing, while processing, it will tell to the analysis server that this set these calculations. This is the start of calculations. If you remove this and process the cube, don't throw any error. It processed successfully, but when you try to access data, you will get like this. It won't give you any records. Not only calculated member data, it not even displays the plain measures data. You know, sales amount is a plain measure, but still it won't show. Most of the cases you will face this kind of issue. By mistake somebody deletes that calculate one. So make sure that the calculate semicolon is there. This is where you can see script view. If you click on the script view, you will get it. And if you go here, for each calculation, you can see some set of properties. You have to add the calculation name, where you want to display, what's the folder, and associated measure group, and description. If you see these two, display folder and associated measure group, it was like this in 2005 server. You have to come here to set the associated measure group and the display folder in version 2005. For each and every calculated measure, you have to come here, add all the calculations. If you have 50 calculations, for all 50 calculations, you have to define this. But in 2008 on, you can see this associated measure group has been moved to the page itself, and display folder is also moved to here. And what is the use of display folder? Right now, I have given sales data for these two calculated measures as associated measure group. Here you can see it. And if I give new folder or any folder name, any name, then it will categorize that particular measure, and it will place into the folder by creating a folder with the name that is given here. Now to reconnect it, you can see sales data, another new folder is created, and this particular measure is placed. Okay, this is the associated measure group. Under that, I am asking the server to create a folder with the name new folder, and you can give new folder /test also. And the new folder is there, another test is created. Under that, it is placed. Like that, you can go to any number of levels. It's all, this categorizing will be useful to provide user-friendly one. For example, if you have 20 measures and if you want to categorize all sales amount related and all units related into one, you can place all units like production units and delivered units and shipped units and all into one category, one folder, and amounts into another folder. And you can create one more folder saying that calculated measures. You can categorize. So that's the advantage of this particular option, display folder. This is about calculations, and let's see the next tab, that is KPIs. Okay, the full form of KPI is, here you can see that it is key performance indicators. These particular KPIs are useful. A particular KPI is useful to analyze the performance, how a particular player is performing or how a particular product is performing, how the performance of a particular product and how a player. It's mainly used. You can see this word. You might have heard this word while discussing about cricket, a particular player's key performance indicators. You can see some charts saying that this player is performing like this from last 2 years. His performance is improving. And these KPIs are useful to measure the performance of a player or a product or business. Let's see how to define a KPI. And this browser, you cannot see these KPIs in this browser. The default browser what it is provided by SSH. For KPIs, it provides a separate browser. You can see here this is disabled now, browser view. If you create a KPI, then this one will get enabled. Let's create a KPI and see how this works. This is the button you have to use to create a new KPI. Once you click on that, the new KPI is created. The page is open. Product sales. I want to see how a product is performing. And here you have to specify what measures of data is associated with this. Now I'm going to see based on sales data. Okay, what is the value expression? Which value you want to compare? For example, if you see a player wise, you will see the runs, how he is scoring. If you see batsman wise, the value expression will be runs. And if it is bowler wise, it's wickets. And if it is fielder wise, how many catches and run outs he has taken or he was involved in. Okay, like this, you have 4 different expressions here, one for value, one for goal, one for status, and one for trend. The value expression is the value or metric based on which you are going to analyze the performance of the product. And goal, as you know, you will set some goal. For example, if it is Tendulkar and it is performing consistently, you will set a goal like if he hits continuous hundreds, like consistently, if he is hitting good scores, then he is a good batsman. Not only for Tendulkar, for any player, if he is hitting on an average of 40 runs per match, then he is a good batsman. For a bowler, if he is taking on an average of 3 wickets per match, he is a good bowler. You have to set some goal. For example, a product, if the sales is $100 per day, then it's going good, or it is not going good. You can set that. You have to set some goal to compare. And this status expression and trend expression will be in between -1 and 1 always. If it is -1, the status is poor, it is not performing well. If it is 0, the status is okay. If it is 1, it is performing good. Like that, I will show you how to write expressions for all these things. The value expression is you have to specify what you want to compare. For example, I want to see the sales amount of the product. If the product sales amount is good, then fine. Let me take the goal. If the goal is 1,000, my goal, I set a goal of $1,000. Okay. And what you want to show as status indicator? Let me show traffic lights. It will show red, green, yellow. If it is green, it is okay, going good. If it is red, it is in danger. The sales is too poor for a particular product. If it is green, the sales is more than expected. Like the goal what we said. How to write this expression here? As I said, these expressions will fall between -1 and 1. So you have to give either -1 or 0 or 1. Let me write a case statement. Case 1. KPI value is a function which will give you the value of this particular sales amount. KPI value I have to give this KPI name. So KPI value of this particular KPI means it will give me the sales amount for that particular row is greater than or equal to KPI goal of the same. KPI goal means it will give me 1,000. KPI value means it will give me the sales amount what is there for that particular row is greater than so and so, then 1. It is performing well. Greater than or equal to. When KPI value I'm not typing it, I'm copying and pasting, of sales amount is greater than or equal to 90%, which means 0.9 into the KPI sales, sorry, KPI goal. If I set goal, it is 1000, and if I give 0.9 into so and so, then it will be 90% of it. Then it is 0. It is okay. It is greater than or equal to 90%. Else means the remaining condition, -1. I'm ending it. So I've given an expression here to check the status. The KPI value of this particular KPI is greater than or equal to KPI goal, then it is going good. If it is 90% greater than or equal to, then it is okay, moderate. If it is less than 90%, then it's not performing as expected. Or you can set some 80%. If you think 90 is too much, you can set 80%. If it is greater than 80%, then it is going good. And here you can write the same expression to show the trend, how it is performing. And for example, I'm showing the same expression, and you can give expression like last 1 year sales, product sales, and last this sales, how it is performing, and you can compare. And ultimately at the end you have to give the values between -1 and 1. Okay, I'm setting the arrow mark here. It will show greater than, less than, and all. Up arrow, down arrow based on the trend expression, evaluation output, the output. And this is the display folder where you want to display it. You can write some folder name, or else by default it will show under KPIs folder. And parent KPI, it is recursive, so you can roll up. So that's why if there is any other KPI which is parent to this, then you can specify it. And current time member, it's all not a mandatory one. Wait and description, you can do some description. Let me process this. I processed it. Now this browser got enabled. If you come and see the browser here, I have only measures and the dimensions. I cannot see the KPIs. But under KPIs tab, the special browser is provided. See, this is the value, total value, and this is the goal I set. This is far greater than this value. So it is green. The trend is going up. Okay. And now I'm adding a dimension, bin product, and a hierarchy, English product name, and there is no filter expression. Okay, 1 second. I'm showing all products here. One second, it is not showing the values. Important. This is the product sales we're seeing. Okay, let me show you the same in Excel sheet. Here I'm not able to see the value. It is not displaying the values. If I filter the value here for 3 products, you can see the value. The value has to be filtered. See, the value got filtered, and you can see the goal is still less than the value. That's why it is green. Let me take only one product where the goal is less than. Where the value is less than goal. There is no value for this adjustable rate. So better, let's see the value in the Excel sheet. You will get clear picture how the KPI will get displayed. Let me connect to Excel. Go to data, from other sources, from analysis services. I'm giving localhost, and the cube name is add work, and it's adventure works. Next, and finish. You can see these are all the measures, team product, sales product, and under KPIs you can see KPI. What is the value of KPI? That is sales amount. We define sales amount as value, and goal I said 1000, and status it's either green or the traffic light status, and trend is arrow mark. Okay, for now it is fine, it is going up. Let me drag some row items, like let me see the value product wise. English product name, I'm dragging it into rows. If you see, adjustable rates has 0 sales. So, and the goal is 1000, it is poor, it is going down, the trend is going down. And this one is far up above the goal, so it is green. Let's see whether there is any yellow, that is 80%. There is nothing which is just 80% of that. I have to still drill down. So either it is damn poor, when it is null it is poor, if it is having value it is for sure having a good value, good sales amount. Okay, let me increase the sales amount to some value around 30,000. Here I am increasing the sales by 30,000. The goal by 30,000. I processed it, options, refresh. I refresh it. Now you can see this is green, greater than the goal what we said, that is 30%. And the yellow ones here, this is greater than 80% of the goal but less than goal. Like that you have many yellows here in the bottom. Here you can see 25,919, 26,459, and 25,424, 25,424. All these are greater than 80% but less than the goal amount what we set. This is how you have to define your KPIs. The goal expression is not mandatory that you have to hard code it. You can provide some other column, like if you have 2 columns, sales amount and goal amount, you can keep goal amount as your goal expression. And sales amount is also not mandatory that you have to give site measure. You can write some calculation, complex functionality like get the sales of so and so year and get the sales of last 2 years, something like that. It's not that you have to give only simple measure by dragging and dropping it. And the status expression and trend expression need not to be the same. I've given it to simplify the explanation here, the example here. So the main thing that you have to remember in the status expression and the goal trend expression is you can get the value, the current row value of the KPI and the goal value of the KPI using these 2 functions, that is KPI value and the KPI goal. In brackets you have to give in double quotes the KPI name. That's it about KPI, and let's take a short break and we'll come back to actions. Okay, we discussed about calculations and KPIs. And for calculations, I said the new named calculation which we create as data source view will be executed while processing time. And while processing the cube, whatever the calculations that you are defining here in the using the calculations tab, new calculate remember button in the calculations tab, only the formula will be stored in the server. So whenever you run the query, the formula will get executed, and then it will give you the result. So that is the main difference between these two, and you cannot write complex calculations in data source view or data source using views. Now let's see what is the actions. Actions is a piece of functionality that you can attach to your queries output, query output. For example, if you Here if you see, I pull data, English product name wise, sales amount. Let me ignore about this discount amount and sales amount division for some time. So I have written some function, I have some output here. I can attach some functionality to this output. Okay. There are three different kinds of actions. One is standard action. This is new action tab which you have to use to define standard actions. And the other one is drill through action. And the third one is reporting action. Let's see one by one. Let me take first drill through action, how this one works. First of all, you have to give the name. Let me name it as drill through itself. And what's the measure group that it has to be attached. This is I'm attaching this to sales data measure group. So all the measures under the sales data measure group will have this drill through action. Okay, and this condition is optional. For example, you can filter out some measures. For example, 10 measures are there, but you want to provide this drill through action for only some measures. In that case, you can filter it out. And what are all the drill through columns? Okay, if you come and see here, when I click on drill through action, what should happen? That's the thing that I have to provide in drill through column. I want to show product name, and in the product I want to show product name and color of the products. Under that I want to show, and then I want to show measures. What are all the measures I want to show? Sales amount, this one, everything. I'm adding all. And remember, you can't set this one for calculated measures. Okay, now the action is defined. For example, if I click on any measure of the sales data, then it has to show me product name, color, and these measures values. And you have additional properties which are useful for third-party tools to connect, and this one default. This is for third-party tool, the interaction and all, and this invocation is also for the third-party tools. And maximum number of rows, you can limit the maximum number of rows that is coming. For example, if your output, the drill through output is giving you some 50 million records, you don't need to show, if you don't want to show all those, you can limit it to 200 rows or 1000 rows or 2000 rows, something around that. And this is the application name. You have to give which application is gonna run this. That is not a mandatory one. And description is description about this particular drill through action. What happens if I click on this drill through? It's also not mandatory. And caption. What caption you want to show there? You want to show drill through action. Okay. And the next option is caption is MDX. It is asking whether it is an MDX value or string value. If it is MDX value, then it will be evaluated when you right click on it. I will show you when it will evaluate. Right now this is a string value, so I am setting this one to false. Let me process this. I have added one drill through action. Let's say I am seeing the data based on category. Okay, which product category. Now I am clicking. I'm clicking on a particular cell. Whatever the cell I click, I can see the drill through action. Whatever the action that I have given, defined there. And it is common for the sales complete measure group. So if I drag any other measure from the sales data measure group, like order quantity, I can see the same drill through action. On click of this, the functionality what I defined is it has to show me the name, the color. There is no color for few products, and the sales amount, the remaining amounts for the amount. You see the output. This is what I have defined. Yes, and this is called drill through action. On click of something, it is giving me the next level of data. Okay, and this is how you can configure the drill through actions. Drill through action, if I click on this, I can see all the sales amount. And I filter for top 200, so that's why it is filtering only 200 records here. So this is how the drill through action works. Where we need this drill through actions. For example, consider the scenario, if you have country level data, the report is country level data. So the row columns is countries and the amount the measures is sum amount. On right click and clicking on this action, it has to show the next level, that is state level data. So you can configure that. And you can write one more action like city level data, saying that when you right click on it, it has to show you city level data. So you are drilling through the data from country level to city level or street level based on the configurations that you set. This is how to configure drill through actions and how it works. Let's see the other type of action, that is reporting action here. For reporting action, it is, for example, if you have a report, SSRS report defined and deployed into the server, then you can call this one on right click of something. For example, let me give the name as report action. I don't have any reports deployed in my local machine. So let me give you a brief how to do that. Once we work on SSRS report, then we can try this one. I'm giving some name and what's the target number, is it attribute number or cells or cube or dimension numbers, whatever you want. You can select dimension numbers. If you select dimension numbers, it will list you the dimensions. So on click of any attribute of this dimension, that you can navigate to that particular report. Or else you can set attribute on a particular attribute values click. You can see that. For example, let me do it for English product name attribute. On right clicking of English product name, you can see this action. And here condition is again optional. For example, if you don't want to show this action for all the products, if you want to show this action for only one product, then in that case, you can write the similar condition what I said, like if current member is equal to English product name dot AWC logo cap. And here you have to provide the report server details. What is the server? In this case, let's say localhost, and here that you have to give the deployed path of the report. If you have any report deployed, then you have to give the path here. So once you give the path here, if the report what you are calling from this act using this action has any, if it has any parameters, then you have to define the parameters like param1, whatever the name that is given in the parameter report parameter, you have to give the same, and here you have to pass the value for that. It's saying error in reloading. Let me recommend. So you can, for example, if you are passing product name, then you have to select this product name. If you select any hard code anything, it will pass this blade always. Even if you right click on blade, chain, ring, something, it will pass only blade as input parameter, or else you can use current member. So that whatever the item that you right click on, it will pass that value to the report parameter. For example, if your report is like this, if you select any product name, then it will show you the product related sales and all. Then this is how we have to pass the parameter for the report. Click on OK, and the same additional parameters like you have seen in drill through actions. You can give the caption name, and you can check whether it's you can specify whether it's an MDX or not. So this is how to configure reporting action, and in browser we set it for English product name. So if you right click here, you can see the action here. Right now we have not defined it. So if you define it properly, and if you have any report deployed, SSRS report deployed in your machine, then you can configure and you can test it. And that report will, that menu will come here. If you click on that, it will take you to the report by passing the parameter, whatever you are passing to the action. Let us come back to this report action once we deploy some reports into our machine. And if you see the third kind of action, it is standard one. You have to give action name, and again the same on top of what, for what target you want to set this, you want to tag this action. So I'm giving attribute members, and here again I'm taking product, English product name, and condition is optional, as you know. And here you have different types of actions you can define here. First one is data set. If you select the data set, then you have to write some MDX query, then it will push the data into MDX query. And proprietary is client tools related one, and row set, if you give any SQL query or MDX query, it will push the data to the row set. And statement is normal SQL statement, it will run. And URL, if you want to navigate on click of this, if you want to navigate to some URL, then you can give that URL here. For example, let me take, you have to give in double quotes as it is string, http www.gmail.com. I want to navigate to this one when I click on this particular action. And I'm tagging this action for English product name. And let me give some caption, Gmail, and let me process it. I see connected it. And I tag it for English product name, so this is product subcategory. Let me tag English product name. So you can see the Gmail here. If you click on the Gmail, it will take you to that particular website. So where this one will be helpful, where you need this. Let me show you an example. Other one, the scenario where you may need this, the URL action. For example, for customer, you'll find it's not here. So in most of the tables, yeah, there is geography key, which means it is linking to some other table for providing geography details. For example, if a customer related details is there, like city, country, or all, then you can tag that one, like http maps.google.com/country is equal to, you can pass the value from this reporting action. So whenever you right click on the country or city, then it will, if you click on that action, it will take you to the particular city to map, to find out in Google Maps where it is. Or you can navigate to the URL which you want to, where you want to compare your results with this one. So you can tag any URL, any valid URL with this action, and in addition to that, you can use this, the other actions like moving the data of SQL, MDX query to dataset or row set, or executing any SQL statements. So these are all the different types of actions available, and here again these expressions, conditions, and few are dependent on the MDX. So you should be thorough in MDX to work on actions, to make full use of actions and calculations on KPIs. Okay, let's discuss about one more important concept of SSAS, that is processing. Whenever I click on process, this window is opening, this wizard is opening, and you can see so many processing options here. And if you see these processing options, there are 7 different processing options here. And if you see when you process on the solution, you can see only 3 options. And if you see while clicking on the process of a dimension, then you can find some 6 different options. Okay, let's discuss about why this, what are these options, processing options, and which one suits which scenario. So if you click on the solution, you can find only 3 options. One is process default, process full, and unprocessed. The unprocessed, what it will do is, it will, if your cube is already processed, then it will delete all the data from your analysis server. For example, you deployed and processed your cube in XYZ server, and all the data is pushed into the XYZ server. Now if you click on unprocessed, it will remove all the data from that server. If you click on full, process full, first it will remove and then it will do the process again, fresh copy. For example, if you have outdated data in your analysis server, then if you click on full, process full, then it will delete the existing data, remove the existing data, and it will process the full data. And if you click on process default, it will check what are all the objects that are processed in process state, and it will find out the best way that suits to the current situation of your queue. For example, if you add one measure group and one dimension table, or if you add only one measure group, and if you click on process default, it will try to find out the best way to make the cube, to bring the cube into complete process state. So better to go with process default, and if you want to process the full, you can go with this option, process full. And dimensions, if you see, by default one is process update, and process default, as I explained to you, is the same process default, process full, and unprocessed. Okay, there are three extra process updates. What process update will do is, it will go and check with your database, and it will compare and it will update. For example, I have 1000 records here and I have 1000 records there, and there is some changes in the data. Then it will check and it will update. If any updated record is there, then it will update in the analysis service. And this process data and process index, you have to do both, or you have to do process full. Process data and process index means, process full means it will process the data and it will process the aggregate, it will design the aggregations and indexes. If you don't want to do both at a time, for example, if you have a limited connectivity to your SQL server, then if you do process data, it will pull all the data and push it into analysis server. And then you can go for process index, which will define aggregations and indexes. The advantage of this one is you don't need to have the connectivity to your SQL server to design aggregations and indexes. Aggregations and indexes will be designed based on the data that is pulled into your analysis server. So process pull, the steps are pull the data, to define aggregations and indexes. And process data means only pull the data, and process index means design index, define indexes and aggregations. So the process data plus process index is equal to process pull. If you don't have full, if your server is busy SQL server, and if you don't want to maintain complete connectivity until the complete process is done, for example, pulling the data from SQL server to your analysis service is taking just 3 hours, and for processing aggregations and indexes it is taking 1.5 hours. Why you need to have the connectivity to the SQL server? So if you go with process pull, it will have the connectivity. If you use process data, it will pull the process data, and you can remove the connectivity and you can trigger process index option. And if you go to the cube, you have almost same options, and an extra option is process incremental, which process the data in incremental way. If there is any newly added data, it will pull and add it to your existing data. And process structure is very useful one while testing the fixes. For example, process structure, what it will do is, it will process all the dimensions and it will mark the measure groups as processed, and it will say the cube is ready to access. At that point of time, you can drag and see only dimensions data. When you drag the measures, it will be blank. So why this one is useful? For example, I have 10 measure groups and I fix one issue in one measure group and I want to test it. So why I have to process all the measure groups, which will take extra 5 hours. So in that case, I can do process structure, the dimensions will get processed, and then I will process that particular measure group in which I made the fix or which I want to test. Okay, for example, I have a doubt in a particular measure group, like measure group sales amount, whether the data is coming correctly or not into that. So what I can do is I can do process structure and I can do process full of that particular measure group. Then I can cross check whether the data is coming correctly or not. If it is coming correctly, then I can process the rest of the measure groups. Or else I can fix that issue and I can restart the process. If I have to if I process everything and then test it, then if I found that there is some problem in that measure group, again it's unnecessary wastage of time. So this process structure will be helpful in that scenario, in that case, in those kind of situations. Okay, now let's see one more important concept. If you see any dimension and the properties, you can see the storage mode. It is molap and rolap. And for cube, if you see, cube means you can set the storage mode at partition level. For each partition, you can set the storage mode, the storage settings for these. You can see molap, rolap, and holap. You have 3 here, and for dimensions, you have 2 different types. That is molap and rolap. So what is this mode? What is the storage modes, and what is this molap, rolap, and holap? Storage settings or storage mode will explain the server, will tell the server where the data needs to be stored while processing the cube. Okay, you are processing the cube. I am saying that I am pulling the data from, say, relational database and pushing it into analysis server always. But is it the only way where is it the only place where I can store the data? Is it the only place where, is it the analysis service alone where I can store the data? This particular property will tell the server where you have to store, where the analysis service server has to store the data. For example, storage mode it means it's a property which tells the server where to store the data. What is the mode of storage you are using to store the data that you are fetching from relational database? We have 3 different types. One is molap, another one is rolap, and third one is holap. Molap stands for multi-dimensional online analytical processing. Rolap stands for relational online analytical processing, and holap stands for hybrid online analytical processing. And the default one is molap, and the best, 90% of the project prefer 90, even more than that, prefers molap storage mode, and very few prefers rolap storage mode, and never seen any project till now which is with holap. And let me explain you the difference between these 3. First, let's go with the advantages of molap. Molap storage mode means it is aggregated data and the data that it wants. For example, if you process the queue by setting the storage mode as molap, it will pull the data from relational database and it will push it into analysis services after creating aggregations, and it won't fetch all 50 crore records into this. It will fetch only the top leaf level aggregations. Whatever the leaf level, what is the granularity you are specifying for a dimension, it will pull that and it will place it into analysis server. Molap stores the data and aggregations in analysis server, and rolap stores the data and aggregations in relational database, which we are pointing to. For example, in our case, it is AdventureWorks. It will create indexed views to store the aggregation. The data will be as is. Whatever that is there in the database tables, it will be as is, but the aggregations will be stored in indexed views. It will create indexed views and it will be stored the aggregated data in those views. And the holap, it will store the aggregations in analysis services server, and it will leave the leaf data in relational database. So it's a mixture of MOLAP and ROLAP, half using MOLAP and half using ROLAP. So now let's look at the advantages. MOLAP is damn fast, super fast. MOLAP storage mode is super fast and it takes more memory. I mean, already relational database occupies some memory, 100 GB of that, and MOLAP will occupy something around 30% of the memory again in your analysis server. For example, if your relational database is 100 GB, it will take 30 to 40%, means 30 or 40 GB again in your analysis services. That's the problem. And the problem, one more disadvantage of using MOLAP is it is not real time. For example, if I process the cube today, by setting the storage mode as MOLAP, it will pull the data from relational database, that is our data warehouse, and push it into analysis service server, and it will store in the form of binary files there in analysis server. And if you come after 2000 years and see the cube, if you try to browse the cube, you will find the data until today what we processed, until the date when we processed. After that, your data warehouse will be damn heavy. So much of data pushed into your data warehouse, but it won't come into it. It won't be there available in your cube, which means it is always outdated one. If I process the cube this second, for next second it is outdated one. Okay, if any new data loaded into a relational database, then it won't come into analysis service until you process it again if it is MOLAP storage mode. Now let's see the disadvantages of ROLAP. It is real time, as it is directly pointing to the relational tables, relational database tables. If you add a new record, it will come when you write the query. And the disadvantage is it is like taking so much of time. It is like writing a query against data warehouse. There is no aggregated level data stored. I mean, aggregations will be there, but for leaf level data, it will be damn poor at the query performance. And if you see ROLAP, the only advantage of ROLAP is it's real time. You don't need to process again and again. You have to just create the aggregations. That is enough. And if you see ROLAP, for the high aggregated level data, it will be super fast like MOLAP, and for leaf level data, it will be super slow like ROLAP. And the advantage of this storage mode, I mean, they have given 3 different storage modes, but the best advantage that is given to us by Microsoft is for all these kind of storage modes, you can write query in MDX. It will accept MDX queries. It will convert it based on the storage mode, and then it will push the data, pull the data, and display, submit the data to you. So these are all the 3 different storage modes we have, and my suggestion is, if you want the data to be shown in fraction of seconds, then go with MOLAP. If you want real-time feature, and if your data warehouse is having just 10,000, 50,000 or 20,000 records, but you want real-time functionality, then go with ROLAP. And the third one is ROLAP. Not suggestible. Now, okay, here they provided MOLAP, which is super fast, but the only problem is it is outdated one always. Is there any feature which adds that real-time functionality to this MOLAP so that everyone can go with MOLAP? That's the best option if they can provide. See, Microsoft has provided one property called proactive caching. Proactive caching, what it will do is, to go to options, storage mode is MOLAP, and I have to click on enable proactive caching. It will say update the cache whenever data changes. Silence interval is 10 seconds, silence override interval is 10 minutes. So for every 10 minutes, it will go and check and it will get the data. Or drop outdated cache. No, this is update the cache. What it will do is it will have in-memory cache. Cache means it's a temporary memory. What it will do is it will go based on the configurations that you set here. It will go and it will pull the data and it will store in the cache. When, for example, you have product related data, 50 products data is there and you added one more product and it's data. What it will do is it will add that one more product data into your cache, and 53 product data will be there in your analysis services server. Whenever you query for product-wise sales, then it will pull the data from analysis server and it will concatenate this data that is from caching, and it will submit you the result. So in other words, it's almost like real time. If you don't bother from where you are getting the data, whether it's from analysis server or caching, you are getting the real time scenario here. The real time scenario is set. So what will happen? How long it will be there in caching until you process the cube next time? If you process the cube next time, then it will pull the complete data will come into your analysis server and the cache will be empty. And if any new records get added into your data warehouse, then those records will come into cache again. So it is like pseudo real-time scenario. So remember this. This is very helpful, useful property proactive caching if you want to implement real-time scenario for MoLab storage mode. This is about storage modes, and we have one more concept left here, that is roles. Roles are used to set the security. If there are 10 users and only 5 users should have the access for processing the cube, and 5 users should have access to read the data from the cube. And if you want to restrict these 5 users from processing the cube, then you can use roles. It's not only for processing and reading the data. You can set the restrictions at leaf level, like member level in this case. Let me create a role and show you the difference. It's just like perspective. If I give view control, everything is disabled. If I give full control, then the person, the members whom I'm going to add here will have full control to the queue. He can process, he can do whatever he wants. And if I give only process database, then he can only process the database. Who are the members? Then here you can see what are all the things he can process. He can process the dimensions, he can process see here the process is set. You cannot change it. Why? Because I set the process option here, process database. If you give read definition, and let me add one member into this, or no need to add, we can for demo purpose, and read definition is set. Here access read, and cube I want to give access to cube read, and read and write, it depends. If you want to write back data to the cube, you can provide the read and write. Cell data, if you want to filter based on some MDX, you can provide that MDX here. And dimensions, everything is read set. Process is optional, you can give. Okay. And dimension data, until what level you can give access. You can restrict the user until the member level. For example, add work, these are all the dimensions. I don't want to give access to the dimension. Let me remove the dimensions here. Read definition is given for full. Let me take this one out. I'm giving read definition only for 3, 4, 5. And 6 and 7. I don't want to give access to the books and authors. And in dimension level data, if you see, authors is already a removed one. For dim product, I want to give access to only color and English product name. And in that English product name, I want to give access to only 3 products. I can check it. This is least. Sorry. This is least level. Oops, I cannot give advanced and advanced. Here I can filter out the data. Here if I give something like, do you remember any product? Blade. That one is removed. So I don't have access to that particular blade and AWC logo cap. You can set some, you can uncheck. For example, this is very useful when you are giving goals to different users of different countries. As I said, the member, there will be country member, and in that you will have India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. For Indian users, you can give access to only India country. For remaining two, if you uncheck, the user cannot see those two. And I set some roles here. Let me save this. Okay, I made all the changes to that. Okay, let me save that and let me process the cube. I have not added any members to this role. I just defined a role, name role. I have not changed the name also. The default name is role, and I have restricted. I have given only access to few dimensions, and I have removed access to few products, and I have not assigned any members yet. But I can test it here using this. These are all the full data, and the role is already set, I guess. Current user, the roles, the role is already set. That is why you cannot see the blade here. If you see, AWC logo cap is gone. I have removed that from the list. And blade is also not there. Why? Because I have defined a role where I don't want to show AWC logo cap blade. And let me remove chain. Now the chain is there. You can see it clearly. The chain is there under this list. Let me remove classic West L. And let me give AWC logo cap. Classic West L I'm giving AWC logo cap. And let me process it now. So I processed it and let me reconnect to the queue. The AWC logo cap has come back and classic West L is gone. So this is how you can filter, you can set the roles at leaf level, that is attribute member level. And if you add some members, you can add some members to this user, to this roles. If I add 10 users to this role, only that users can see the data that is given for this particular role. For that, the data for which that access is given for that particular role. This is the advantage of role, and if you want to test the role whether it's working fine or not, you have to come here. You can see the button here, click on role and select the role. If you have 3 to 4 different roles, and if you want to check, select any one role which you want to check and click on OK, then it will take you to that role like this. And one more thing, this is the cube now, and we have defined some actions on top of for the sales amount, and you can see those actions and the additional actions. Keep this one in mind. You don't search for action here like this, how it was showing in Cube browser. The actions will be listed under additional actions. Under additional actions, you have to see the Gmail. So like this, I've defined the Gmail URL action for English product name attribute. So I can see that under additional actions. So this is all about SSAs. We discussed about all objects of SSAs. and let's discuss about MDX in next session.